The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk's first show of 2016. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Inauguration Day, Coronation Day, or whatever day you want to call it. But
nauseating day, I think.
Today was the big day.
Yes,
our new regime has been officially sworn in with its leadership in place.
Yes, and you know, I listened to it, and I have some of the speeches queued up. And I'm going to go in order that they gave them. First off, we had Karen Polito, who spoke about the future of Fall River. And my job is to my job is to work with the cities and towns. The governor gave me charge of the cities and towns to work with them to make them successful. Okay, thank you very much, Karen Polito. I've met with you several times. I've been there on your Commonwealth Compacts, the signing of them. And I think that you have some great ideas. But you know what? Great ideas are wonderful. Implementation's what we require. Yeah. Then we had Sean Kadim, elected 8 to no vote at all. It was
abstention. One abstention.
Yeah, a present vote. Joe Camara voted present.
An abstention.
And we can see already what's happening here. We can see the alignment of the political allies, okay? And I want to see how long this holds true. Okay, it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens. And he was already making excuses by saying we're only people, and as long as we do this in good faith, we can correct our mistakes afterwards. Isn't that the mantra of all the previous administrations that we have, including his mantra as a city administrator? Was we can fix it later. I mean, are you really trying to say Florida is going to move forward? Everyone's saying that we're having a wonderful future ahead of us, and this whole new team of people is going to do it. I will say, they haven't even made mistakes yet, and they're all already trying to cover them up and say, oh, well, I said when I took office, and I don't like that crap. But I will say this. I think the most impressive, I shouldn't even say impressive, I think the most interesting speech initially from the non-mayoral point of view, from the city council, was Linda's. Elected vice president 9-0. She was elected totally. She came up and she said, I want to thank you for the support of all my colleagues. We have a phenomenal group council. They haven't done anything yet. How are they phenomenal? So what have they done in the background, Councilor Pereira, that we don't know about yet because you've maybe violated 30A or you've already got all your ducks lined up? And then you turn around and say, but more importantly, we have to reach out to our supporters, our family supporters, who sometimes have to bite their tongues to the point of blood. And that does happen because they don't like hearing the things that are said about us. Hey, guess what, Linda? If you don't got the thick skin, get out of office. I'm sorry to start this off New Year with such a piss-poor attitude. But you know what? The truth is what it is. And as I've said 100 times before, I'll say it again, and it's a very well-known quote. If you put lipstick on a pig, you still have a pig. The only difference is now he's got lipstick. And that's what's happening here. It's all fluff. It's all the show. I mean, they couldn't even get the inauguration started on time. They were like 51 minutes late. Are you serious? Get this stuff together. Okay, the presidential inauguration, the gubernatorial inauguration, the New Bedford inauguration, those don't start late. They start on time. So I have to ask myself, and I want our viewers to ask themselves, if we're already starting late at the outset, what's going to happen later? It's interesting to see. Well,
as far as Polito's concerned, listen, those political hacks come down from Boston and throw out, they load you up with hyperbole and BS and tell you how great Fall River is and how they want to help Fall River. Well, they've helped us into last place. The lowest income level in the state, the lowest household income level of any city or town. So, things have not been going well. So let's take the rose-colored glasses off, okay? And let's put on the real glasses that give you 20/20 vision. And let's look at things objectively. I mean, I listened to Kadim's speech, and I was encouraged by a couple things. If, in fact, they do what they say. An old friend and a very influential political pundit in New Bedford, Bob Mello, known as the Humble Bum, once said, words without deeds are worthless weeds. And he got that from somebody, and but it's true, and as it's action speaks louder than words. Dan Robel and I had a conversation about that earlier today, and it was like, without action. But Sean Kadim did say that he's not going to agree all the time. So that's a positive to me, because I'm tired of listening to Linda telling everybody how wonderful everybody is and how we all got to hold hands. And then 2 minutes later, she's saying, sometimes you got to vote for what you don't believe in because you have to. And as I've said a million times, that's crap. You don't vote for what's not in the best interest of the people. But Sean Kadim said sometimes they're not going to agree. I hope so, because I hope that the people on a city council look at the best interests of the people of Fall River first and foremost. And he also said that, he's not going to agree all the time, and, mistakes will be made, but they can be resolved. Well, they can only be resolved if you acknowledge them as mistakes, and that's been one of the problems we have in the city of Fall River. No matter what they do, all they try to do is cover their tracks. They never changed the course. They never changed the course of the city of Fall River. It's their attitude that, hey, we're the government, and if we do something, even if it's wrong, we'll come up with all kinds of excuses, like Dominion, and we never got the memo, and we didn't do this, and we didn't do that. The 22 windows, nobody still knows what went on. And that's not the way you do business, And then we talk about public safety all the time, and yet nothing's done to reduce costs, to free up money for public safety. There's never a shrinking of government. The last few decades have been nothing but governmental growth. Fall River, the city of Fall River has become an employment agency like the MBTA. And this is what we've done. I went down this morning to pay my water bill, and the line was, they got a beautiful office, by the way, now, the city clerk. It's just, I feel like I'm in a credit union, except in that credit union, you can never take any money out. All you do is put it in. But, the fact is that nice office. And at the time, there were 2 clerks working. And there was some woman that must have paid, she must have owned, I don't know how many properties, and she was paying in cash, and she had each one in a separate envelope. I think she was there for an hour and a half. So, in essence, we had 1 clerk dealing with all kinds of people trying to pay their water bill. That's what we pay our taxes for, to have service. And then another clerk came over, and then finally that woman got done paying her bill, and then they ultimately ended up with 3 clerks because somebody else opened up another window. But, that's what you pay for. When you go to government center to give the city the money that funds everything in this city, you have to wait in an endless line. You look at the number of people who work, they're overworked on it. They're nonstop now. Today, they'll be working nonstop, those clerks. I'm not saying anything about the clerks. I'm saying they had more people walking around the mayor's office doing nothing this morning before the inauguration than they had clerks that are making peanuts for salaries servicing the taxpayers. That's what bothers me. That's what bothers me. And that's what's got to change. And I'm going to give these people, their opportunity. They wrote a check with their mouth, and it's time for their tuchus to cash it. Because we're going to hold them to it. And the reality is that, promises and global this and global that, and euphemisms like Fall River, has got a bad rap. What was the exact verbiage, CJ?
Oh, that came from Mayor.
Yeah.
I got to call him Mayor now. Mayor Jason Correa, who said that he is going to address the negative perception unfortunately cast upon Fall River.
Well,
I'll give you the perfect positive, perception. We are a home of drug-addicted individuals, prostitutes, and criminals. And anyone who's on the city, state, or federal dole. Because this is why our income level and our crime rates are so terrible, and why we were listed as one of the top 10 ghetto communities in Massachusetts.
Well,
that's not a negative perception.
No, perception, I hate to say this, but, Mayor Correa, now he is the mayor, has to realize that in politics and in the political world, perception is reality. And if you travel anywhere in the state of Massachusetts and say Fall River, people shudder.
You say it in Rhode Island,
and
shudder.
And it's not. Look, it's not. And it's not just a perception. It's a reality. And we can say that there is a basis, like stereotypes are based in fact. They're not all exactly true, but they're based in some factual, they have some factual basis. Well, that perception is not based on totally erroneous thought process. If you look at a city and it's 351st out of 351 towns in household income, if you have the highest percentage of welfare housing in the state, if you have the second, and we may be higher now since we're lower, but we had the second highest percentage of people living below the poverty level. You put all these factors together, a failing school system, tremendous heroin problem, although it is a statewide issue. They just had that HBO special on heroin on Cape Cod or something, but the fact is Fall River is one of the we were in the top 50 for heroin. We're in the top 50 for crime. We're at the bottom for income. We're at the bottom of every positive category that you can think of. Fall River is at the bottom of. We have the second lowest amount of businesses of a city of our size in a state. Why? Because nobody has any money. When you look at this, come on, Jason, let's, the only way you move this city forward is saying, hey, these are the problems, we have to address them. Don't try to condemn the rest of the people for being realistic and looking at Fall River objectively. I mean, when they go there and somebody's looking at places to buy a house, and they look at the stats that everybody can read, Fall River's the last place they want to come. I remember a Fall River that wasn't that rich, but most people had jobs. Most people paid their taxes. We had a lot more businesses. And we had a lot safe. And we were safer. We had larger fire departments, police departments, and we used to have a very high percentage of people voting. There was one time 75% turnout. What happened to those people? They're in Somerset, Westport, Dartmouth, I don't know, Dubai, anywhere, you name it. The bottom line is they went anywhere but stay in Fall River. So look, I understand that it's your job as the mayor to try to rally the people, but who are you rallying? Who have we got? You got that little small monarchy that we have in this city that think that we're an unlimited source of taxation. Then you have a much larger percentage of people barely scraping by, hanging on to their houses. And then you've got the vast majority that don't work.
And that's the problem in Fall River. And you know, in Jazel's inaugural speech, which by the way, I want to say very clearly, historically, it has been common practice for mayors who are being inaugurated into office to provide their speech to the press an hour or two before the inauguration. I sent a request to Faust Fiore over the weekend for a copy of this speech prior to him going on the air and prior to him being inaugurated, so that we could discuss it on the show with the actual facts, with the actual, you know, speech printed out, and we could go over it line by line if necessary. And Faust, who is basically the glorified press relations person for the mayor, failed in his duty to provide that, or was instructed to fail to do that duty. Every other mayor does it. The governor does it. The lieutenant governor does it. I get more press releases from other cities and towns and their mayors and what they're saying, what's happening, than I get from Faust in this one event. And I'm not going to accept the fact that, oh, you know, we forgot to do that. Guess what? You can't forget. You no longer have an excuse, Mr. Fiore. You no longer have an excuse, Mr. Mayor. You keep the press informed so we, in turn, can keep the people informed. Like it or not, that's the way it works. But, you know, he said very clearly in his, you know, inaugural speech that he's going to build partnerships. He wants to build partnerships with the global community. He wants to put Fall River on the map with his partnerships. And again, he wants to, you know, get rid of that negative perception. You know what? You want to build partnerships, that's a lovely thing. You know, we need partnerships. We need partnerships for economic development. We need partnerships to make a better city. But you know, I spoke with a professor at a local educational institution, and he said, you know, the problem is that historically we just give away the store. You know, we just give it all away. And if this mayor does this, if he gives away the jobs, hires everybody, okay, he may send us into receivership. We don't have the money anymore. And everyone thinks we have money. Where do they find this money? My pocket, your pocket, you, the viewer's pocket. And we don't have it to give to them anymore. Well, and the problem is that as long as we don't have that money to give, they're going to keep taking it anyhow, because there's never a dollar that a city councilor, a mayor, couldn't take and run with. And now we have the school committee doing the same thing. They're taking the money, and they're saying, we're not getting enough, which is bull. So again, don't believe everything they say. Don't believe everything they write. Words without actions are weeds. And
worthless weeds. But, you know, the fact is, look, the first thing we have to do is address the fact that the primary problem we have is that everybody that's been attached to government for the last decade or more thinks the answer to everything is to give out more jobs on an administrative level and tax more. And as Milton Friedman said, my buddy, if you gave the government the Sahara Desert, we'd run out of sand in 5 years. They don't know how to do anything but spend. I've said it time and time again. I'm not going to be happy until this city council and this mayor restructures government, eliminates some of this fat. And on his way out the door, leaving on a jet plane, you know, Simpering Sam, our former mayor Simpering Sam Sutter, said on a local radio station that one of the reasons he failed as mayor is he didn't have enough help. Really? You didn't have enough help, Sam? Maybe you failed as mayor because, as I told you at the meeting we had, you probably should have stayed in law. Because, you know, this isn't a law office. You can't get all your paralegals to do all the damn work, and then you waltz into the courtroom and you just read the stuff that they researched. And you got all these little minions running around doing all your work, and you show up like the, the grand night at the last minute, and you don't basically do anything. Well, you know something? Every single department in his city has a department head making 6 figures. How about holding them accountable? Why do you need all this help to run the city? If that's the case, screw it. Get rid of every department head. Why do you need them? They're making 6-figure salaries to run that department.
And they have assistants.
And they have some of them more than one assistant.
Exactly.
And yet, all we hear from politicians is, I need more assistants. I need more this. For what? Carlton Viveris had a GED. You had a law degree, a Juris Doctor. And you couldn't run his city? We got half the personnel we had when Carlton was in there. We had a 300-man fire department when Carlton Viveris was the mayor. We had a 300-man police department. DPW was twice the size. And all these departments ran efficiently with a mayor who had a secretary, not a chief of staff, not a special assistant, not the special assistant to the special assistant. And the city ran fine. As a matter of fact, we had $12 million in surplus during that era. With all those personnel, costs, pays have gone up, wages have gone up, but the fact is, it's about supervision. I mean, effective supervisory practices, if you study a little bit about management, you have a span of authority. And one of the most important things in being a manager is delegation of authority. Why can't you delegate running every department to its 6-figure department head? And then call them in and hold them accountable? No, that would be way too difficult. And would also eliminate half your family's jobs. That's the problem. And I'm sick and tired of these people whitewashing everything and trying to make it that we need more help, we need bigger government, and they're the government and they get to make all the decisions. This is the people's. You represent us. And as a matter of fact, I was told this morning, and I was very disturbed by it, that the Charter Commission had a parliamentary procedure seminar. And the individual who gave that seminar is supposed to be a lawyer who practices in Massachusetts, who also teaches here, and I don't know whether she teaches government or what she teaches, or law, or whatever. And she actually made the comment that the recall was a stain on Fall River. A stain. Well, I say to you, professor, or assistant professor, or pseudo-professor, or whatever title you have, do you think that due process is a stain on a judicial system? You're a lawyer. Read the Constitution of the state of Massachusetts. This government is our government. We had a statutory right to have a recall. It was an exercise of the people's freedom to take over the government again. It wasn't a stain. We got accolades throughout this country, and you're a disgrace for saying that. You should not be teaching anything in any institution if that's the attitude you've got, because you don't even understand the government that you work under. And as a matter of fact, the next time you go to court, if I was a judge, I'd say, we don't need due process because that's a stain on this system. So that's my rant, because that really went up my derriere this morning when I heard that.
No, you know what should make you more upset is that on that Charter Commission, okay, is one of the people who was very active in the recall process. And did that Charter Commissioner say anything? Did that Charter Commissioner defend the people's right? Because if not, that Charter Commissioner should resign. And I am going to question that Charter Commissioner on it as soon as I possibly can. But I'm going to tell you, this is interesting because, we have a city of poverty. We have a city where the politicians don't want us to exercise our rights, and they keep creating these positions by legislative action. The special assistant is an ordinance. The chief of staff is an ordinance. Hey, Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Council, Ms. City Councilor, what would you do if the people started an initiative petition? removing the chief of staff, removing the special assistant, and not giving you that. What would you do? What would you do?
Maybe their job?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they do their job. But maybe that's what we have to do. Maybe we have to start legislating everything to the point that people don't have the freedom that they want to have to hire their friends, their mother, their father. And I'm telling you now, I'm watching very closely on any new hires. And I'm going to look at every single background because the mayor made a comment which Parker Gavigan shut him off right away and went to a commercial break, and I had to play it back a couple of times. He's going to get the best and brightest, and he's going to get them from Rhode Island. Massachusetts, Fall River, doesn't have any people smart enough to do it. We got to go to Rhode Island. And I played it back several times, over and over and over again. You know what? That's almost insulting. To go back to when this mayor was a city councilor, by the way, never elected to city council, he was a runner-up. Okay, so this is his first truly elected office. He said that he wanted to hire young people. Young people. That was an insult to anyone who wasn't a young person. And we're not going to go for, well, I'm 65, but I perceive myself as 30. You know what? That was an insult. And I understand that the new mantra is to, pass the torch. But you know what? Without experience, you destine yourself to failure. You've got to have a little bit of experience in your background. And if you don't have any, you don't get much. And the people that you put on your transition team, advisory council, whatever you want to call them, that was the biggest political bull that I've ever seen in my life. None of them are worth their weight in anything. You have felons, tax dodgers, and people who have paid your bills, Mr. Mayor. We look at that.
Well, let me say, look, the government, big government, you can't have this stuff. I mean, special assistants and all these jobs. Maybe we should, since we're getting a charter change, maybe we should look at the Worcester charter. Because in Worcester, their mayor only gets $20,000. Well, I haven't checked it in a while, but at one time he only got $20,000. Why? Because he's a ceremonial mayor. Because the city of Worcester, which is the second largest city in the state, I believe, or is Springfield? I don't know. It's either, I think Worcester's the second largest, Springfield's the third, or vice versa. But it's much, much larger than Fall River. It's one of the largest cities in the state. So large that we don't even consider it. But the fact is, their mayor gets a token salary. Why? Because all he is a ceremonial mayor. Because we have a city manager. Well, guess what a city manager is? It's like a city administrator. But in Fall River, we have a city administrator, then a mayor needs more help. Listen, if you're going to be a ceremonial mayor, let's cut your pay. Let's change the charter. How's that for an idea? If you want all this help because you can't do the job, why don't we pay you 20 grand and your assistants 10? We'll save a lot of money right off the bat. You said you wanted a pay cut. There's a pretty damn good pay cut right there. Because if you don't want to do the job and you need all this help with all these department heads, get rid of somebody. Gee, for crying out loud, get rid of somebody. Get rid of the department heads if you don't want them to run their departments, or get rid of your help. But how many people, what does it take in Fall River? 100 administrators to screw in a light bulb?
Takes a village.
Yeah, it takes a village, and we're tired of it. So start off the new year angry. Let's look for change. We're going to give them every opportunity to do it, but we're going to call them on it.
Oh, that's
Stay
for sure.
angry, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. And watch us this week because we're going to have some great shows, as we always do. Always a pleasure to be with you. Sorry we're late, but, the inauguration took its place. Have a great day.